I never thought about things like that really until that point. And so not only just the Bitcoin piece, but just life in general, it kind of started changing the way that I started looking at my life. This was right before I had gotten married. So the time aspect definitely 1000% have a better appreciation for the moments instead of the day, if that kind of makes sense. I feel like right now I perceive time differently than I did before I was in Bitcoin. I have more attention on the things that I'm doing today are for tomorrow.
I hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bitcoin for Family show, where every guest is your new BFF. That's your Bitcoin friend forever. I'm Scott from Shamri, and it's an honor to have you here. Thanks to everyone who's been listening or watching. I hope you're finding the show fun and educational. And if you have been enjoying the show, I'd love if you liked, subscribed, and shared. If you're feeling really generous, go ahead and drop a comment or a review. Every bit helps in spreading the word to other Bitcoin families. Now, on to this week's episode. I'm excited to welcome another follower to the show. Thanks for taking the time to join Apollo.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, honored as well, and I'm excited for our conversation today.
No, it's an honor to have you, as we were just talking about. This is Apollo's first podcast that he's done, so there's kind of excited nerves going on. So everybody be nice in the comments, for those hundreds of thousands of comments that our shows get. Don't go too hard. No, and I thank you. We've never actually met before, but I saw you post something on Twitter about your family and figure that's the perfect type of person we're trying to get on this show. So thanks for being open to jumping on and going down this rabbit hole. Cool. Well, before we dive into any of the questions, maybe just kind of set the stage for the audience to give them a sense of, who your family is, the family members that are around you, and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. It is myself, my wife, and my two lovely little children, 2 and 1. Their names are Zaya is the little girl, she's 1, and Apollo Jr. is my son. And it's kind of interesting. My family, my side of the family, they're all from the East Coast, and so it's me down here in the Houston area. And so a large part of our family kind of activities and the way that we grow and bond is primarily with her family, and also to kind of mention, since my family is kind of from the East Coast, a little farther off. I have relationships with most of them, but not all. So it's kind of teaching me how to lead a family, how to be active with the rest of the family members, and just learn how to love on each other. If that kind of makes sense. So it's
Definitely
been an awesome experience.
makes complete sense. No, perfect. And we'll dive more into that family story as we keep going along. But let's kick things off with some fun icebreakers to kind of get to know you in a more lighthearted type way. So icebreaker number 1, what's a movie or book that you love that you can't wait to share with your kids as they get older?
Wow. So movie wise, I am a huge fan of the Dark Knight trilogy. Okay, the uh one with Christian Bale. And so definitely looking forward to that. I'm a big V for Vendetta fan as well, and Interstellar. Those are some of the films I would definitely I definitely look forward to sharing with them and experiencing with them as they grow.
Very nice. I'm sure they'll enjoy all those. Got to, being 2 and 1, they got a little bit of time before diving down those rabbit holes, but
A little bit.
perfect. Question number 2. So you mentioned you played baseball growing up, which is awesome. What position did you play, and what positions do you think your wife and 2 kids would play based on their personality?
So I was a pitcher and a center fielder. And so for my kids, my wife, she would probably be a good coach. Yes, and my little ones, my oldest, he's 2. He's just kind of starting to throw things around. So I would say he wants to pitch too, because he does not like catching. He just likes throwing the ball. And the youngest somewhere in the outfield so she can run around and play. Yeah, definitely.
Makes sense, and you get to enjoy them actually playing in the coming years as they get older, I'm sure.
Yes, and knowing my luck, they won't have any love for baseball.
Speaking from a baseball family on our side, it doesn't. It most of the times they'll follow you. So we have two bait. Well, our youngest is only a year and a half, so I can't call her a baseball fan yet. But our 6-year-old is a huge fan. So they'll be there with you. But sticking with the baseball theme, who was your favorite player growing up?
Derek Jeter, and Ken Griffey Jr. Those are my two favorites, hands down.
Very nice. Number 4, if you could swap roles with your wife for a day, what would you do differently? Could be a dangerous question.
It is a little dangerous because she is a nurse. Funny, but before me and her started dating, before we got married and everything, I thought that nursing was just, hey, doctor said administer this, or put a band-aid on this, or draw some blood from this. But no, it's a lot of cleaning up poop and throw up and stuff like that. So I don't know if I could last that long doing something like that. But yeah, I would probably try to stay away from the stay away from the bedside. Let's just put it like that.
That works. Stick with the construction site.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, last one. What's a quirky habit your kids have that you secretly adore?
So I am not let's just say, person of rhythmic talent. I'm not a good dancer, but my kids and wife and pretty much everyone else loves to. And so they dance all of the time. It does not matter what kind of music or anything like that. They dance to commercials. And so that's one thing I'm actually starting to, I guess, do now more because of them. Yeah, absolutely.
Very nice. We'll need some of those videos posted to kind of get those. Those are we'll splice them into the episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, those were fun. Let's kind of take it down more of the family side now and kind of get to know you a little better, and take a trip back to when you were a kid, and maybe kind of set the stage to kind of what your childhood was like growing up.
Yeah, so I have three other siblings, a brother and two younger sisters. I'm the oldest, and for the majority of my childhood, it was kind of us and my mom. Okay, she was a teacher. Kind of the whole lower income group coming up, different experiences surrounding that, things of that nature. But I will say, from that, it kind of made us a closer unit, and it kind of taught me how to lead. And that's one thing that I'm kind of passionate about, is helping the person next to me, no matter what the situation. I've always been kind of taught, look down instead of up when you're kind of learning about people, because the people that are in lesser fortunate situations than you are need your help, guidance, love more than the rest. Kind of like Jesus hung around the people that needed his word more so than the people that weren't ready to accept it yet. If that kind of makes sense. Not sure exactly how much you want me to kind of elaborate on that. But grew up playing sports in high school. It was kind of the thing that kept me from being around the more so troubled crowd, I guess you could say. And it really kind of helped me put things in perspective, as far as a lot of my friends and peers that I grew up with that weren't involved with sports and stuff like that. They were kind of focusing on the wrong things, going in different directions that would probably lead a lot of them into incarceration and the graveyard. And so it kind of helped put me in a mindset of, I have a goal of what I want to do, what I want to be, what I want people to see me as, what I want people to accept me for. And so that kind of helped put things in a light, that this is the direction that I want to go, and this is how I'm going to achieve it. Because, hey, look, I'm not a rocket scientist. I like to say I am a person that kind of knows a little bit about a lot. And so I was not gonna get to like college or anything like that without sports. And so that was kind of my path to get there. And from there, I've always loved doing things with my hands and building things and watching things, the progression of things being built, like houses, buildings, things of that nature. So I kind of gravitated towards the architecture side of things, and I did that for a couple of years. And I was like, I don't like being in a suit, sitting at a desk, talking to stuffy people about the designs and stuff like that. So I kind of started veering toward the construction side, and that's kind of I've been in this environment pretty much ever since then, doing various things around construction. And I actually met my wife in college, and we're coming up on our 5-year anniversary, actually, next month. And so it took us probably about 9 years before we finally decided to do it. All on me. I had to get myself right. I had to get my mind and my soul right. And so it was definitely the best decision on kind of going that route. Funny story. The school that I ended up going to, I actually didn't really want to go there because they didn't have the best baseball program, but it was kind of the only place that I was gonna get like a full ride to go. And so I was real hesitant. I was kind of like, oh man, I'm just gonna stay here for a couple of years until someone sees me and I can transfer, But I ended up tearing my Achilles and my meniscus my second year. And so it was my first time being like a regular student. Back then, things are different now, but back then that's like a year to kind of heal and rehab and come back from. And so during that time is when I met her, and like I mentioned before, this was my first time being a regular student. And so I was into the chasing girls and partying and all that kind of stuff, and so baseball kind of started fading away a little bit as far as like where my passion for it. And so it's probably ended up being the best thing for me, because I met her, and we've pretty much been together ever since, and have a beautiful family with her. Great person, and she's kind of, you know how opposites kind of attract each other. And so she's kind of the one that reels me in. She I forget exactly which one's the left brain, right brain creative versus linear, but she is the linear one and I'm the wild creative one. And so we kind of mesh because of that. So when I get a little bit too out of bounds, she helps reel me in, So yeah, it's a little bit of a background for
No,
me.
that's perfect and all that, and great kind of fairy tale story, if you will. Kind of having injury kind of lead you to your love. So that's a nice way to and we'll circle back around to that. But kind of going back to the baseball and sports side of things, you mentioned the important role it played when you were younger. Keeping you off the streets and making sure you stayed focused. Was it mostly that you had that goal to go to, you had a practice to go to, or was there more lessons that came from that side?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Definitely the time spent in all of the practices and workouts and traveling and this stuff kind of kept me away from that. But also, like I mentioned before, I didn't really have my father in my life, and so getting guidance, coaching, just talking to from prominent male figures, I gravitated towards that, because that's not something that I really had on a daily basis. And you can talk to your mom about all kinds of things, but there's certain things that need to come from and learn from other successful male figures, and so that's one thing that for me at least kind of kept me in that space, because I liked and respected who these people were, and that's what I wanted to be. And I knew I didn't want to be doing the other stuff, So absolutely both.
No, very nice. Are there any lessons from the baseball side of things that you see have kind of transferred over to making you the parent you are today?
Absolutely. For anyone that kind of follows baseball, uh, having a 300 average as a hitter is considered really good. And so what that means is you bat 10 times and you get 3 hits, you're considered a superstar. And so one thing for me, I'm a person that really goes off of gut feelings and what my heart is kind of telling me to go in certain directions and things like that. So you're not gonna have success in every single venture that you try to tackle, right? And so the point of that is to not give up just because plan A didn't work. Plan B could work, plan C could work, and so on and so on. So absolutely the steadfastness, the keeping with what you are going after definitely has kind of one of the kind of sports lessons that helps to translate over here because hey, there's no manual for having a family or anything like that or kids, and especially on that point, not necessarily seeing the most positive examples of that growing up, and so you just kind of know that you want to do the opposite of that and you still don't exactly know what to do, but you know that you don't want to do it a certain way that you saw and that you experienced. And so, um, hey, there's a thousand different ways to parent, and so you just kind of have to try each way that you feel comfortable with and that you feel as though it's going to have the most positive impact on the wife and kids and try that out, so absolutely.
No, for sure. I always describe baseball as a low time preference game as well. You're playing for the long run, whether it's in the actual game or in the 162 game season. Do you think some of that also plays into your mentality around Bitcoin as well, being a low time preference asset?
Absolutely. I kind of only learned that after having the shorter time preference view. A little quick backstory on that. So I kind of got into Bitcoin for real in 2020. All right. Before that, I had heard about it in 2017. I have a relative that is in the military, and he was telling me about it in 2017. And I was really big into stocks and options and all of that. And I was doing good with it. And so I was kind of in the mindset of I don't need that. Like it doesn't make sense to me now. So I'm not gonna I'm not gonna get involved with it. I'm having success doing it my way, and when they kind of shut everything down and froze people's accounts and things like that, and I wasn't even able to take my stuff out of the exchanges that I was using. I kind of saw on Twitter everybody kind of still running to Bitcoin, catching the falling knife as they like to say, and I'm like, everyone else that I kind of follow is selling their stocks and stuff like that. But these people, they're running to this. I had heard about Bitcoin, so I kind of knew what it was, but I was like, they're running to Bitcoin. Why? Why? And so that kind of first sparked my interest as far as like, okay, I need to find out a little bit more about this thing. And so as I started reading and learning and watching podcasts, YouTube University, I really started kind of learning like, hey man, this is not something that is going to be a get rich quick kind of thing, and this is not a deal where I'm trying to see a return right now. This is for the long run. And that kind of first sparked my attention like, wow, okay. So, yes, I never thought about things like that really until that point. And so, not only just the Bitcoin piece, but just life in general, it kind of started changing the way that I started looking at my life. This was right before I had gotten married, and so I was kind of thinking like, okay, well, I need to start looking at things like the way that I have learned to look at Bitcoin, So I don't know if that kind of answers that, but yeah,
No,
absolutely.
no, it definitely does, and it makes complete sense. And you also mentioned, as getting to know you, that you dove down the Bitcoin rabbit hole first, and then had to start teaching your wife about it. Kind of go along there. What was that process like?
Boy. So it was all in all probably a 2 year constant learning and teaching and showing and explaining process. Like I mentioned before, she's very linear. So if it's not something that her parents taught her or financial advisor or whatever kind of, if it's not in that space, she doesn't want to deal with it. Both of her parents are in law enforcement. A lot of her family deal in that kind of space too. And so it was kind of something completely foreign. And me, I'm always the one, I'm the opportunist. I'm the one that is kind of thinking a little bit outside of the box. How can we take advantage of this situation or that situation to better ourselves or our family? And so it's kind of funny. Before we kind of combined our finances and bank accounts and stuff after we got married at the end of 2020, I was doing all the stock stuff on my own. And so I had actually gotten laid off right when all of the stuff started happening in 2020. And so my job had gave me this severance. And so for about 4 or 5 months, I was just at home doing the stock trader stuff, like in front of the computer, had like 3 screens doing all that nonsense. And so I stopped it once I kind of started getting into Bitcoin because I was just learning at this point, right? And so my wife kind of noticed it. She was like, "Hey, you're not doing the stock stuff anymore." And so I was like, "Hey, I got to tell you about this Bitcoin thing." And so, man, I'm telling you, within 5 minutes of the conversation, she was rolling her eyes and like, "What is this stuff?" Like this sounds like some video game money. Like what is this? What is this? And so me knowing her had to really have a good grasp on what Bitcoin was and why it's important, why I think it's important before I revisited that conversation. And so from that first conversation to our second one, maybe about a month before we got married, I had dumped everything in. Like, I mean, 3, 4 hours a day, I was looking at stuff, reading stuff, diving into what Bitcoin was, and so I showed her, hey, this is what I did, and I want to tell you why. And so that kind of got her attention, like, whoa, okay, like you were doing good with the stock stuff. Why did you sell us it all and then put it here? Why? And so I kind of took that as my kind of cue to kind of share with her what I had learned and read that day. And so almost every day I was, like I mentioned, learning, reading. And so I would mention to her a little something that I had learned. And that will spark a conversation with her, like, oh, why? Help explain this. Why does this work like that? Why doesn't this work like this? And so, dude, I'm telling you, it took probably 2 years for the orange pilling to kind of happen. One thing I will say for people that may be in my position, well, or that in the position of myself back then, trying to convince a partner, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, about it, learn how they receive and retain information, and then kind of work your conversation around that. So, and even it was kind of a perfect timing because of all the stuff that was going on in the world, and so being able to relate different things that were going on around finances, money, it was almost like a perfect storm where it's like she's seeing these things, reading them in articles and on the news and stuff. And I'm like, oh, hey, let me tell you why that's happening, you know? And so absolutely, absolutely. I had to kind of adjust the way that I explained Bitcoin to her.
Definitely. I think the key thing that you said there was, learn how they receive information. And that's true, not just for teaching about Bitcoin, but for anything. If you want to educate someone, whether it's an adult or a child, you need to understand how they're learning. And is that something you're also keeping in the mind as you think about teaching your kids, not about Bitcoin necessarily, but just teaching them, you have two of them, they're going to properly learn different, and being able to have that awareness now that you've gone through it, on that side with your wife,
Absolutely.
to understand that
Absolutely.
your kids are going to need it as well.
Yes, absolutely. Me and my wife were actually kind of talking about this about a week ago. So, coming from a sports background, I was the kind of player where the harder the coach was on me and the kind of more intense the coach was with me for performance reasons, that's what motivated me. That's what amped me. me up. Her, she's kind of the total opposite of that. If you kind of approach the situation or the conversation with a lot of intensity or a lot of energy, she's kind of more, hey, tone it down, but let's slow down, right? And so kind of seeing how, and granted, they're very young, but kind of seeing how they respond to, hey, you can't put the fork into the electrical socket, for example, seeing how they respond to different, I like to call them coachings, that's definitely something that I try to keep front of mind, because everyone does not receive information the same way. And the same passion that you have for whatever that you're talking about or trying to relate to the next person, you want them to receive it with that same energy, right? And so you have to kind of meet them where they're at, and then kind of formulate how you're approaching said situation off of that. So yes, absolutely.
No, for sure. Has it changed as you guys think about the journey ahead of, like, your kids are young now, but as they approach school time, obviously in the Bitcoin space, you hear a lot about alternative ways to educate, whether it's homeschooling or world schooling, and there's public school, private school. Has that opened your guys' eyes up to different alternatives as you think about the future for them?
Yes. So this is a active conversation right now for us. And so I'm glad you asked that. I kind of grew up where my mom was very, very much into history and cultures and different beliefs and teaching. Just because something's different does not mean that it's bad, and so I'll give you an example. I can remember as early as elementary school, we would have a history test on whatever. And so I would come back and kind of tell my mom, hey, this is what we did, blah, 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 whatever. And she kind of had her own set of information for whatever topic it was that I brought home. And so she would be like, yeah, this is what you learn in the textbook about said event, but this is what actually happened. And so you I kind of got both realities for pretty much everything in life that I learned from textbooks in schools, right? And so I am definitely that same way now. Just with her, she she wants she's interested in like kind of the homeschooling kind of deal, but she doesn't really feel as confident to execute it, right? And she just feels more comfortable with like the traditional school. And so it's definitely an ongoing conversation. We don't have a decision yet on exactly what direction that we want to go, but we definitely want to make sure that we kind of instill that same thirst for the whole story instead of just what you see or learn in said textbook, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so you could almost say, your mom doing that, the original kind of don't trust, verify
Yes.
aspect, and then she was really, in a way, laying the groundwork for you kind of, being able to open your eyes to all these other things, whether it's Bitcoin or,
Yes.
or not related, which is pretty cool that you can tie it back to something your mom was doing, many
Yeah.
years ago for you. And
One
also,
one one small. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut
oh
you
no,
off.
go for it. Go.
One small added point to that, because of that and her being that way, she is the easiest person to orange pill in my entire family. At least she was, after two conversations, she was like, okay, show me how this strike app works. Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Perfect. That was gonna be one of my questions to you. Because it seemed like she was prone to it. So perfect. Glad to hear that was an easy one for you. And the second thing I was going to say, I think it's, speaking from a homeschooling family, I think it's very common to have the feelings like your wife might be feeling, scared or feeling like you're not up to it. But I think anybody would feel like that. You're probably not human, and if that's the path someone chooses, you'll figure it out in your own way. And there's so many resources out there, whether it's people in the Bitcoin community or outside of that, or in communities around Houston. So you'll definitely find a pathway that works for you guys. And, it could be a hybrid of all those things. There's so many different options out there.
Absolutely.
And
Question: you homeschool your kids? Kind of a how was that conversation with you and your wife?
yeah, it was just kind of something that came natural. There wasn't necessarily a single conversation that happened. So our oldest she just turned 6. And our youngest is a year and a half. And so, with the oldest, being, she was born in 2019. So going back to, the 2020 time period, we were home a lot then. And, started doing just kind of what you do as a kid, learning the numbers and shapes and all that stuff. We had nothing else to do in the house. So got to teach them somehow. And that kind of really started spurring it. And then just the fact that all three of us were home together, we really couldn't imagine separating, in that, why would we send this person away for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, when they're 4, 5, 6 years old and beyond, when they don't have to. It just kind of seemed crazy. So that was kind of the genesis of it. And then, being, open-minded to alternatives, getting to know other people in the Bitcoin space that were doing similar things kind of gives you confidence. And then we just kind of, took the ball from there and kind of seen how it goes. So yeah, it's, we're always open to helping, asking, answering questions, as so many others in the space are, that are out there. So don't ever hesitate. There's so many people that could help you guys and, help answer questions.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, we will be talking about that a little bit later. One last point on that.
Yeah.
One of my, I guess, one my biggest kind of hurdle for the homeschooling aspect, which I do like the idea of. It's kind of a not the best example, but me and my brother got suspended from fourth grade. I was in fourth. I was in fifth grade. He was in fourth grade at the time, and so my mom kind of always taught us, like, hey, if one gets in a fight, you're both fighting, right? And so we got in trouble because we did a little bit too much of that, and so we got suspended for basically a semester and a half. And so my mom like homeschooled us for that time period. So like I feel like I have a little bit of an idea of kind of like how it works. Granted, that was in these things, it's completely different now. But the other thing was, if they like sports, I want them to be like involved in that. And so I played independent baseball for a little bit after I kind of recovered from the injury and stuff. And there were a couple of kids that I met that did like a hybrid learning space. And because they were part of the hybrid piece, they were able to participate in the sports programs with the school that they were they were interfacing with. And so that kind of like opened my eyes, like, hey, that's still a possibility for them, you know. And the other thing is, I'm a very social person. I didn't go to school to learn. I went to school to have fun with the other kids and stuff, And so, depending on how they are, I want them to also be able to comfortably interact with others. So those were kind of my points of concern, I guess you could say, surrounding the homeschooling piece.
Yeah, I think they're all very, very common, and they can all be alleviated in various ways. On the social side of things, there isn't a day that goes by almost that our kids aren't socializing in one way or another with other kids. There's so many. You're in Houston, so it's a bigger city, so you should be able to find other homeschooling pods or communities that you kind of become a part of. So that's one great way. And I think a lot of times people think about socializing just with other kids, but there's just as much value in having your 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old socializing with adults in a more natural way outside of your home, which happens all the time. For us, we take our daughter to conferences, when we go, and she's there. Just having her be part of all that. So socialization is something that is pretty easily alleviated, or being able to do that in this situation today. The sports, like you said, there's so many different options out there. You know, she plays tennis, she's played baseball, softball, basketball, she swims. And like you said, some of those sports are easier than others to keep playing as you're homeschooled. You know, if you want to play, if you have a kid that wants to play football, that'll be a little tough maybe, you know, when they get into the older ages, to high school. But, you know, sports like tennis, sports like basketball, you know, there's ways, baseball, there's ways to keep playing and go down that pathway. And, you know, see where they all go. I don't think those come into play too much until they get into high school. You know, up until younger, elementary school, middle school, you're really just playing rec leagues or club leagues. So you're just signing up. But it's really the high school period probably that it comes into focus the most. And then, you know, once they touch that, you know, that could be more of a conversation between you and them as an older child too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely.
No, but it's a fun journey. So don't be scared of it as you kind of think about it and go down that pathway. Another thing you mentioned, kind of getting to know you before we started the show, is wanting to be a role model for the African American community related to Bitcoin and kind of have a like-minded face out there. Kind of touch on that a little bit and speak to those people out there.
Absolutely. And that's actually something that I'm very passionate about. I'll kind of touch on that point secondly, but just from my experience and talking to different folks, especially in the community that I kind of grew up in, what you do with your money is considered like a very personal thing because there's not a lot of access or knowledge about what to do with money, and most people don't have it where I'm kind of coming from. And so when you kind of hear people in your community or your peers kind of telling you, hey, do this with your money or do that with your money, it's always kind of met with a, well, that sounds great, but that's what you do, right? It is, oh, you're having success, but that's you had success with that. I'm not going to have that same thing. And so since it is already something that's kind of met with contention, I feel like knowledge is the most important thing. Besides anybody says, hey, I think you should put whatever into it, I tell people all of the time, don't put a penny in. I just want you to learn about what this is, learn about why this is important and why this is different. And that's where everyone's journey should kind of start. I'll just give you an example. So we have, as an African American and just kind of being in America, we understand that these systems are not set up for you to be successful. It's built for you to stay on the lower level or ranks, whatever you want to call them, of society. That is not a uncommon point of knowledge inside of the Black community, right? With that being understood, kind of confused me a little bit when I first started kind of telling my family and friends about what Bitcoin is and why it is important. It's like, guys, we already know and understand that this system is set up for you to not have success. And so when you kind of learn about something that's outside of that, and for you to have and keep whatever wealth that you do have, and it's outside of that, it's kind of like one of those things where I don't trust anything because I know everything is set up for me to fail. And so I don't trust anything. And it's like we need to kind of open ourselves up a little bit more to what else is out there because we're just so used to people trying to scam and take what you have from you, and this idea of, we know that situation A doesn't work, but let's try situation B, thinking that situation B is, hey, this person's trying to game me, or this person's trying to take what I have because I don't understand the information that he's presenting to me, right? And so I try to kind of position every time that I'm speaking to someone about Bitcoin or kind of working it into a conversation as to, this is not a trust me, bro kind of thing. Like, it is you are learning how to, we already understand we don't trust. So we have to learn how to verify. And this is the only way financially for us to actually do that in real life, you know? And so I think, unfortunately, it is going to take more people like myself, more people of color to kind of do more outreach and things like what me and you are sitting here, the conversation that we're having right now. Because look, man, I'm gonna be totally honest. From my beginnings in Bitcoin in 2020, a lot of the people you see on the podcast and that write the books and that are on YouTube and doing stuff, they don't look like me, right? And so that was a barrier that I had to break down, as far as like, hey, this is also for us too. This is not just something that a certain group of people is kind of taking advantage of or learning about. This is for us too. And so if someone that's very open-minded like myself, if I kind of started like that, I can only imagine what people that are more closed-minded, how they're approaching the conversation or even the willingness to listen. And so I feel like I kind of have to take it upon myself to do more outreach, share more information, do stuff like this to help kind of break down that wall of, hey, this is also for us too, if that kind of makes sense.
No, makes complete sense, and such an important, initiative. You hear similar things, on the female side of things, want to be able to get more females in the space,
Absolutely.
to be able to have their voices heard and make sure that they're hearing it from other people that are like them. And so you doing your work, are there any success stories that come to mind that you've seen come to life through kind of helping to be that voice, whether it's personally, like people or through Twitter or whatever?
Yeah. So I actually started a group chat in 22 once I felt like I had enough grasp of information to answer questions confidently, if that kind of makes sense about what Bitcoin is. Because hey, man, you never have all the information. There's always something to learn. There's always different aspects of Bitcoin, and once you feel like you've had a grasp on something, you open a door and it's a and it's a ton more information that you haven't even scratched the surface of yet, right? And so I kind of started with just like my kind of group of friends, and well, the ones who I felt like were actually kind of interested but didn't know where to get the information or how to get the information, or to stay away from the videos with the thumbnail clip of somebody doing like this, So I kind of set it up as, guys, this is an aggregate of information. Okay. And so I send clips, articles, videos, books, because I feel like it took me a while to seep through the hype versus actual information stuff. And that, I feel like, will slow down a lot of people who are actually interested but don't necessarily know what's Fugazi and what isn't, right? And so the way I kind of do it is, hey, if there's a 15-20 minute video, I'm gonna send you the most important 10 minutes for someone that is just kind of learning about what Bitcoin is. And yes, I've definitely had some success stories. A lot of them are from, hey, like you told me about this when it was crashing down from 69 to 17,000, and now it's back up at that time around 80. So it's like, okay, I think I'm ready to learn now, or I think I'm ready to hear what you're trying to say now, and keep it real basic, surface, barely talk about mining because that's kind of a whole another thing. I just try to teach kind of the basics of what scarcity is, why. I know it sounds crazy to have scarcity in a digital space, but this is why. This is what makes it scarce. This is kind of just basic entry level information of what Bitcoin is. And for the people who kind of ask questions back, I kind of focus the attention on them, because some people might have questions but are kind of afraid to ask. So hey, this person asked, let's send some information about what this topic is that this person asked about. And one other point on that, I started this kind of folder where I call it Bitcoin for Beginners. And so all of the kind of basic entry level information that I kind of learned and that resonated with me first in the beginning. These are kind of little topics that I have in there. And so if it's someone that I like meet on the street, or I always try to wear like a Bitcoin hat or something, somewhere just to kind of spark a conversation, I'll text them that file. And it's like, hey, here's 25 pieces of information, videos, articles, clips, and stuff. If you can make it through it, text me your number back, and I will add you to the chat. And then just kind of filter information there. That's kind of like, I guess, my success story that I've had, and it started with 8 people, and it's grown to 2 group chats now because I think Apple only lets you do like 50 or something like that in one. So I have 2 separate ones now. So yeah, absolutely.
There you go. You'll be up to 3, 4, and 5 before you know it. I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome to hear the work you're doing. Smart, being able to curate it for yourself, so you're not reinventing the wheel every time. So nice job by you being able to do that work, because it takes time, like you said. Circling back to kind of the dad life, as you think about the past handful of years of becoming a dad, what's one unexpected challenge that you didn't expect, and how do you overcome it?
So one I would definitely say is I mentioned earlier that I'm a very social person. I like being around people. I like talking to people. There's also a good amount of times where sometimes I just need it all to kind of turn off, like the noise, the stuff that's going on outside or around. And so and that kind of helped keep me balanced as a person. And so one thing that's definitely been that was kind of the first glimpse of like, hey, I need to kind of change how I approach things now, is there's no such thing as quiet time when you have little ones, right? And so I've definitely done some reading and learning about meditating. That's kind of one thing that I've actually kind of started doing. And so I do it when I'm like driving home from work, or when I have a little bit of time when I get home. Most of the times, the wife, since she's a nurse, she works kind of different days and stuff. And so like when I get home and have maybe about 30 minutes before I come out and start re-engaging, take shower, change, whatever. And so, because hey, I get dirty, I'm out on job sites. And so kind of learning to kind of focus your energy to a point for 15, 20 minutes, that helps with my inner, I guess, anxiety or whatever that you would call it, to help me stay balanced. And so that's actually helped with me, because I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really a patient person. you know uh, and so it has definitely helped me with patience. It has helped me with being able to really give my full self to my family, to my loved ones. I'll give you a quick example. My mom, she was a teacher, and so when she got home when we was younger, she had used so much of her energy and her patience with the kids that we didn't get a lot of that from her, because she was just so spent, dealing with that and just life. And so even from a young age, it was always in the back of my mind, is that whatever I'm doing, whatever job or profession that I'm working, I don't want to be so spent when I get home that I don't have the patience and the energy to love on my family. And so this by that point by itself is like really ingrained in me. And so it's definitely helped with that, because that's something that I definitely do not want to do or be. And so any little kind of thing, as far as even just, hey, when my 2-year old is doing the same thing I just told him to stop doing 17 times, it's just kind of like, take a breath, kind of reset, because whatever impatience or whatever that you're feeling now, you don't want to project that onto them. And especially us as men, the house is going to go how we feel, and the energy that we bring. that's how the rest of the house is going to be. And so I don't want it to be a negative space in any kind of way. And so it's actually kind of made me look at myself a lot more, so I definitely think that the kind of short, I call them short meditations, kind of help center me and keep me balanced in my family life.
Those are awesome lessons. Are there any books or apps or whatever that are out there that you'd like to recommend for other family members or parents that might be interested in kind of going down the meditation rabbit hole?
To be honest with you, no, because look, I'm gonna tell you why. I'm a person, I like doing things my own way. And so I can hear someone or read a way that someone kind of represents their information as far as, hey, this is how I meditate, or this is how I quiet my mind, and I'll try it, but it doesn't necessarily work for me. So I kind of tweak it so that it fits me better. I'll give you an example. So I am really, really big into music, like I'm sure many other people are. And so I will play the exact same song probably 17, 18 times in a row. And so that song becomes white noise at that point, and I'm not even paying attention to how the music sounds or what the person is saying or anything. I'm just kind of focused on a certain point. And so from that, I kind of reset myself breathing wise from that point, and that kind of helps relax me and calm me. Even just listening to what's the app? The Calm app. That's one that I use to the rain one, and the one where it's the waves kind of hitting on the shoreline. But those are kind of little ways that I do. Kind of funny. I do some writing on the side too. I'm working on this collection of short stories, right? And so my favorite author is Edgar Allan Poe. I've always loved writing. I had two really good teachers in high school, Miss Hobbs and Mr. Rains, and they kind of saw something in me. And so they said, hey, keep doing it. Like you're actually good at this. Keep doing it. And so when I was in college, I wrote this. We had to write a short story. And so the professor told me that it reminded them of Edgar Allan Poe. And from that point on, I never read another Edgar Allan Poe anything, because I did not want my creation to be like something else, right? And so I kind of almost live my life like that. I'll take little pieces of things that other people are successful at, but I do them in my own. So I don't even come back to reference like, hey, am I doing it like this person? Oh, this person had this idea. Okay, I like that. Let me put my own tweak on it, and I won't even come revisiting it. And I mean, I've just had success like that my entire life. So it's hard to explain, but it's kind of like I get an idea and then kind of make it my own, and then venture on down whatever path that is going to be from
That makes sense. But it does beg the question: would Edgar Allan Poe be a Bitcoiner?
Ugh. I
Who
don't think
knows?
so. I don't think so. I think that he had an infatuation with disparity and with the darkness of what life is. And I feel like from someone that kind of lived in that kind of mindset of, well, I mean, there was points in time where I didn't think I was going to make it to 25, and so I didn't have a positive aspect on life. I was just like, how am I just going to make it to the next day, right? So I don't know. I don't think so. Fun
Well,
to
I
think
guess
about though.
we will never know. Well,
Absolutely.
before we move on to the final two questions, I just want to remind everybody watching or listening, they're welcome to use code BFF Show for 10% off anything they'd like at shamri.com. So go ahead, grab our books, our game, anything else for your kids. Happy to send it your way. Okay, so let's wrap things up with those last two questions that we all love. The first one being, a common saying in the Bitcoin space is Bitcoin is time. Another belief is that time is the scarcest asset the world has ever created. Playing off of all of that, what is the biggest gift of time that learning about Bitcoin has provided your family?
So the time aspect, definitely 1000% have a better appreciation for the moments instead of the day, if that kind of makes sense. I feel like right now I perceive time differently than I did before I was in Bitcoin. I have more attention on the things that I'm doing today are for tomorrow. Okay. And before I was more so in the mindset of whatever I'm doing now, I need to see the fruits of it by the end of the day, you know? And so also it has kind of taught me that my family is way more important than any profession or job that I can do. I used to be where the job came first and everything else kind of worked itself out around that. But now, really the past four or 5 years, I don't have to be at whatever job that I'm at. I choose to be there because this place affords me the most time with my family. And so 1000%, I kind of crossed that threshold, A, because of Bitcoin, and B, becoming a father, where it's like, hey, normally I get home 6, 7 o'clock at night. No big deal. You just, talk to the wife, eat dinner, go to bed. But no, now I try to get home 5:30 so I can have as much time as I can playing with the little ones and being with the wife. 1000%.
Yep. No, that makes complete sense on that side of things. Well, final question for you. If you had one Bitcoin to give each of your kids, at what age would you give them the keys and why?
That's a very good question. I would say that 25, you have the keys. But from the age of 20 to 25, I want you to learn about what this blessing is that I'm going to give to you, you know. And so the better understanding that you have for it, the more valuable that you're going to see it as, and the more longer term time preference you're going to have with whatever you're trying to build in your life, and more appreciation that you will have for it. And so just for myself, I probably didn't understand that till I was 30. And so definitely 25, and during the time from your 20 to 25, I want you to learn something and then come back and tell me what you learned about Bitcoin and why that's important to you, for sure.
I like that. And put a little test in there to help them along the way. Perfect way. And maybe if they're nice, you'll send them that folder
Yeah.
that you're sending in the group and add them to the group messages.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, perfect. That's a wrap on everything. It was an awesome, fun conversation. Thanks a bunch for being here. Being open to jumping on with a cold stranger from Twitter and chatting about everything. Hopefully you enjoyed your first podcast
Yes.
experience. I'll be sure to link to your Twitter or X in the show notes so people can follow you. Any other places you want to send them or final words you'd like to put out there?
No, I'm pretty much just on Twitter now, but I definitely want to say, for anyone, regardless of where you are in your stage of your Bitcoin journey, beginner or been in it since 2010, um, there's do not stop reaching out to your friends and family about what this is, and interjecting it into the conversations that you have, meeting them where they are in it, because a lot of the problems that, or issues, or difficulties in their lives that they don't necessarily understand where they come from, 1000%, few of them can be addressed with learning about Bitcoin. And that's definitely something that I've experienced with my friends and family. And that's something that I hope that a lot of people continue to do. Not give up. trying to orange pill them, they may not just be ready to accept the message yet. So keep trying.
Perfect words to end it with. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and we will see everybody next week. Bye.
Hi, thanks for joining. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a good review. And buy your kids some stuff at sawmary.com today. Bye. 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 Bye.